What's up guys, and welcome to day 3 of the 7-day filmmaking challenge. So now that we've already talked about camera settings, exposure, composition, and camera angles, today we're going to bring all of those things to life with camera movement. Now there are a lot of different ways that you can add movement to your videos, so we're going to go over the different tools that you can use to make this possible, plus give you our favorite camera movements so that you can get your camera out and start practicing right away. Now the first tool that you can use for creating movement is your hands. Now handheld camera movements have been around for a long time. Often in cinema, handheld is used to make a scene more intimate or intense. For example, most fight scenes are shot handheld to exaggerate punches and kicks and make you feel as the viewer that you are engulfed in the action that's taking place. Now more recently, handheld movements have been proven to be a good way to get your camera closer to the action without having to use a gimbal or any other kind of rig. This has been super popular, especially with cinematic B-roll sequences. The second tool that you can use for creating movement is a tripod. Most of the time when we use a tripod, it's because we need our camera to be sitting static with absolutely no movement, but if you have a video tripod with a nice fluid head, you can get really smooth movements like panning left and right and tilting up and down. Now a tripod is a tool that'll give you the least amount of movement, but it still has its purpose, like when you're showing a scene that has just calmed down after an intense fight scene, for example. Now the third tool that we often use for creating movement is a slider. Now similar to a tripod, this is a set of rails that your camera rests on so that you can smoothly move left and right as well as forward and backward. Now a lot of higher end sliders can also be propped at an angle and then pan and tilt simultaneously for a more dynamic movement. Sliders are great for repeating camera movements that you can do over and over with minimal user error. Now we most often use sliders for interviews or for smooth cinematic B-roll. And the fourth and best tool in our opinion that you can use for creating movement is a gimbal. Now there are tons of different kinds of gimbals out there. We all started on glide cams, which are non-motorized gimbals that use weights on the bottom to balance out the weight of the camera on top. Now a glide cam is a great run and gun tool for stabilization because you can pack it easily, it doesn't need to be charged, and you can quickly slide on your camera and just start shooting. Now more recently, most of us have made the switch over to motorized gimbals such as the DJI Ronin S, simply because they're typically a bit more stable, and we found that you can easily do more intricate camera movements, plus do them perfectly the first try. So to summarize, glide cams are great tools, but they do take a bit more practice to master, whereas motorized gimbals can be learned much more quickly. Parker often uses glide cams, especially for travel, since they're a bit easier to take apart and pack in a suitcase, and we use motorized gimbals for videos like real estate or weddings. So now that you know about some of the different tools that we use, we can move on to the actual camera movements. Now in this video, we're going to be showing you our top 5 movements, but we do have another video on our YouTube channel, which gives you 10 more unique gimbal movements if you want to get more creative. And by the way, all of these moves that we're going to show you will work on a glide cam, a motorized gimbal, or handheld. Only a few of them apply when you're using a slider or a tripod, but you should be able to translate these techniques to those tools without any problem. All right, the first one is the push in or dolly shot. Now this movement can be used for a lot of different things, but we most often use it as an establishing shot to establish location, show off a wide landscape, or in real estate to mimic walking through a home. Now you can do this movement with any of the tools that we mentioned earlier, except for the tripod. Now something we like to do with push-in shots to add a bit more dimension to the image is use foreground, which helps to exaggerate the movement that you're making. Overall, the push-in is a great way to add just a touch of movement, and it's a great alternative to a static tripod shot. Our second movement is the pull-out shot. Now this is just the opposite of a push-in shot, so we're starting tighter on our subject, then moving further away to reveal the rest of the environment. Now we often use this movement at the end of videos to help resolve the story and make our audience feel like they are leaving the scene. Sometimes we'll also use this movement to reveal something later in the clip. Now our third movement is the parallax shot. Now this move is one of the most popular among content creators, and it seems to be the default movement that people use as soon as they get a gimbal. Now the point of this shot is to keep your subject at the same point in the frame, but move the camera either left or right so it appears that the background is moving, but they are staying relatively in the same place in the frame. When shooting product videos, this might be a subtle orbit, or with people, it may be a more grand gesture showing off their surroundings. Our fourth movement is the tilt down / tilt up shot. Now we often combine this move with a push in or a pull out movement to create a more dynamic and majestic shot. For example, this clip from Hawaii of our subject walking through the palm trees. You can also do the tilt down / tilt up shot with a normal tripod. An example of this would be when we want a smooth, calm movement that follows our subject. All right, our fifth and final movement is the reveal. Now this is where we find something in our foreground to glide up against and then reveal our subject in the background. We use this most often for in-camera transitions transitions to help our videos flow just a little bit better. For example, using this tree as foreground, we can push in and allow the tree to pass across the entire frame, revealing our subject in the background. So there you have 4 tools and 5 camera movements to enhance your films. Now, these techniques are meant to help separate you from average filmmakers and help your shots feel a bit more motivated. And as always, we've given you a challenge down below, so be sure to check that out so you'll be ready for tomorrow's video. But that pretty much wraps it up. If you guys have any further questions, please let us know.